Hello YouTube, my name is E.S. Wynn and I'm at the beautiful Riverbend Park in Rancho Cordova, hanging out in one of my neat little favorite, you could say, sacred spots. Getting some time to hang out with a local landvader I've come to refer to as Vinvinder. I'll tell you more about him in other videos and some of the videos in my research and studies that are going to be on Patreon soon. But today I wanted to do a quick video to talk about heathenry as a subject. So what is heathenry? Well, heathenry is essentially the reconstruction of indigenous Northern European spiritual beliefs. It's a pretty broad area. It's primarily Germanic. There are other paths that have the Celtic stuff covered, but heathenry kind of, it's an umbrella term. So if you were to say, in terms of umbrella terms, you would have an umbrella that would be paganism. And within paganism, you'd have a number of other umbrellas, one of which is heathenry. And heathenry is primarily, as I said, Germanic paganism. Under that umbrella, you have faiths like Asatru, which is sort of the mainstream Reconstructionist faith, where people are putting back together Scandinavian beliefs. A lot of people focus on your Viking beliefs, Icelandic beliefs, Iceland being one of the places where most of the preservation and contigenous traditions come from these days. Of course, where the Eddas are from, Snorri Sturluson, etc. Asatru today is basically probably the most concerned with, of the paths I've seen so far, the most concerned with really getting down the traditional historical accuracy, completely going through every little historical bit, nitpicking to get it all just right. It's sometimes also used as an umbrella term because it's easy. It's like one of the biggest branches. You can just say, "Oh, I'm Asatru," that's why I wear a hammer of Thor, and people go, "Oh, okay." If they've heard of it before, they go, "Okay, well, you're a pagan, but you're one of those pagans." Some people have weird ideas about Asatru. Call themselves, well, there's different types. There's, of course, Folkish or Volkish, oh my god, heathens, and then Odinists, people like that. It kind of, a bit exclusionary, typically, not always. So they tend to, fall under that category to a degree as well. The sort of the cult of Odin, and its modern incarnation, that kind of stuff. And then, of course, there's Vanatru, which is sort of a neologism. It's a newer idea, but I really like it as a concept because it separates the emphasis from being on the Aesir, which is what the Asatru focuses. It's in the name, at least. Practice, not always their primary focus, is the Asatru, but it is in the name. And so some people will sort of divorce themselves from the whole Asatru, Aesir, sky gods pantheon idea, and just focus on Vanatru, the Vanir, the other pantheon, the more earth-based pantheon within heathenry. So I myself, when I first got into heathenry, sort of skirted around the edge of it for a while, dipped my toes in for many years, and when I finally did start to go full force, I kind of went in a direction I kind of identified with Vanatru, because I've always had a great working relationship, even before I was heathen, great working relationship with Freya and Freyr, and later on discovered a connection with Njord and Nerthus, or depending on how you pronounce it, depending on where you're from. So Vanatru really spoke to me, much more earth-based, much more, into getting in touch with the land, doing what you can, with the land. Softer, not quite so Vikings warrior as the Asatru path tends to be. So that's pretty cool. In addition to that, there are other paths. There are those who do the Orokatru, which is, I think I pronounced that right, the Rockatru. People who focus on sort of the great primal forces. Landveter play a part in that to a degree. Land spirits, the whites of the land, that's W-I-G-H-T-S. And of course giants, primal forces, you know, storms, you know, that kind of stuff. I've heard people talk about even saying, you know, that Rokatru regards all the giants and all the primal forces, including even containing like a bit of worship towards Gununga Gap, the void, which is a pretty interesting idea, kind of cool. Anyway, and then beyond that, there's two others I've heard of. One is Thursatru, which, as I understand it, the little bit that I've been able to find about it, primarily focuses on the destructive forces that are also tied into Rokatru. So like Thursatru would be people who work with the destructive side of Fenrir, and people who work with like Surt and stuff like that. And you know, I mean, hey, you know, as agents of change, as I've heard it put, some people, I'm sure there are people out there who are just like, woo, you know, death and destruction, I'm edgy. But I think that those who take Thursatru seriously go at it from a sacred change angle with transformation, which is pretty cool. Of course, there are the Lokians, the people who work extensively with Loki, and I never met a bad one. I don't do too much work with Loki myself. I don't think he's evil. I don't think that there's anything wrong with people who want to work a lot with Loki. I've read some pretty neat stuff of people's experiences working with Loki, and seems like a fun guy if that's what you're into. So rock on, keep going with that. And so yeah, that's the basic breakdown. Northern European indigenous spirituality sort of coming back from the ashes. That's heathenry in all its various forms. For myself, man, I like just focusing on mystic heathenry, kind of the shamanistic, spiritual side of it, exploring everything. You know, like I'll go on YouTube and I'll stream Dr. Jackson Crawford, who is wonderfully in tune with the hardline historic aspect of the path, and then I'll hop over to, you know, Sacred Seed or Maria Kavilhaug and listen to the more mystical side as well, and kind of, you know, pair them up side by side, back and forth, and it gives me, I think, a well-rounded perspective, which I like. Myself, like I was saying, I identify as heathen. Pagan is fine, you know, I don't get worked up about it. If you wanted a more specific label, I used to identify firmly with Vanatru, because, as I said, I work extensively with Freya and have my entire life, which is pretty cool. And which is one of the reasons why I wear this, which is my little talisman I made myself on deer antler with the Fehu rune on it. It says Valkyrie in runes down there, and that's kind of the term that I tend to use is for myself, is Valkyrie. I know that there are people who are going to watch this and go, oh, Valkyries are only women. Okay, well, hop on over to my blog, www.eswin.com, and go into the activism section, and you will find out some interesting things about me and my way of relating to the world. So yes, Valkyries are all women. Anyway, that's a basic breakdown of heathenry, and I hope you're all having a great day, and I hope this was an informative video. I'm working on a Patreon, and it should be up soon, and once it's up, I'm going to put a link down in the About section of the video, and the tentative title for it right now is basically Studies in Modern Heathen Mysticism, or Modern Mystic Heathenry. I do a lot of work with Landveter, land spirits, getting to know them, documenting my experiences with them, what they look like, how they respond, that kind of stuff. And also the path of the Valkyrie, which I'm exploring, and I'm going to be sharing that wisdom with people who are interested in following that path, or just, you know, checking out some of the tools and workings and meditations and stuff that I'm working on with that. I'm also working on research into Norse cosmology when it comes to star beliefs, which is something that hasn't really been given the amount of justice it deserves, exploration-wise. I think a lot of people either just cleave to Bjorn Johnson immediately, which is an entirely invented cosmology, or they just go, oh, you know, Vikings didn't know anything about the stars. Okay, I'm working on a book that's probably going to be 500 pages long about all of the beliefs of the Norse and also the Germanic peoples in general. So, so it's going to be a cool book when it's out, and I'm going to be putting a lot of that research up on the Patreon as well. I'm the author of 71 books in print at this time. My website is www.thunderrune.com. That's 1 R. And you can check out my main blog at www.eswin.com. I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a nice day.